All right, welcome everyone. As you can see by the title of what we're going to discuss, but we've been talking about various bits of crowdfunding, mostly from Kickstarter and mostly from Darkest Dungeon, and the sort of shambles that one has went through. But what I thought we would do now is talk about one that I'm actually rather excited about, and that you might be excited about as well. Now, this one isn't on Kickstarter. It's actually on GameFound. For anyone who is newer to this and doesn't know, GameFound is Kickstarter, but only for board games / miniatures games, those sort of things. So on Kickstarter, you can attempt to start anything that you would like. It's a more well-known platform, but it's a little more random, to where GameFound is only related to board games, miniatures games, essentially things in our hobby. So it's a little bit more focused. So that's where this particular one is. What we want to talk about is Acheron's Fall. Now, Acheron's Fall is a ramper design. This is a game set in the Infinity Universe. We did an episode probably actually almost 2 years ago now at this point, related to Infinity. So I'll give you the 10-second crash course. It's the future. Humanity is split into all these various little sub-factions for a variety of reasons, and they've put themselves out amongst the stars. We have fully functioning AI and all this tech and everything like that. And you have what you call the human sphere. That's essentially the conglomeration of all the human elements put together, and there's constant infighting and warring between them. And it changes at least a little bit, to a certain extent, when they run into the combined. So they run into, essentially, aliens. And it's a combination of various alien factions that have decided that we are a problem. They're attempting to, the powers that be for them, try to assimilate to some extent and try to pull everyone together. They're controlled by what's called the Evolved Intelligence. So it wants to take over, destroy, something like that. Those sort of ideas. So the game centers around Acheron, or Acheron's Fall, like it said. This is, if you keep up with the Infinity lore or the more current season, Paradiso campaigns and all of that, this is essentially an area there where there's a blockade. So for all intents and purposes, that's why it's this ship combat game. I don't want to go too much into it, mostly because I'm not as well versed as some other people in Infinity lore. I do love the system, I love the game, I love the lore behind it, but I don't want to speak on something and end up being quite wrong about it. But what I do want to talk about, though, is a little bit about what this campaign is. So like I said, this is on GameFound. I will put a link below. Now, it's only up, it says of this moment, 8 more days by the time you see this video, probably about 7. Might be close to 8, depending on the exact time it comes out. Currently sitting around 200, and, I'll outly show I put my money where my mouth is, and I absolutely pledged. I wouldn't want to talk about this otherwise. What I'll also say is, in no way is this video sponsored or anything like that. I put in my own money. No one has contacted us to do anything about it. I'm doing this because it's something I'm excited about. I know Dan is excited as well, although he's in Florida right now for a teachers convention. I can't imagine that's actually where it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. I know he went there and is hopefully having himself some fun. But I know for both of us, at least, Steve, I'm not entirely sure. I think he's watching it. I don't know if he's backing currently. And I know a lot of the people in my local area have backed this. I know we've all been very excited about it. We actually just started getting in Tag Raid that just showed up to the store this week, which is another game in essentially the Infinity Universe. So this is something that we were looking forward to. So I want to talk about it very briefly, give you a little bit of idea of what it is, talk about why I think it's a good idea, and why it might be a good game for you to consider getting into. So, like I said, for this, they say it's 2 to 8 players, 60 minutes, 12 and up is fine. You definitely might want to be on a little bit on the older side for this, just because the movement, some of the other bits, I think might be a little complicated. And talk about why you should back. Surprise, surprise for a lot of this, that they talk about the reason you should back is because, hey, 1, you help them get it done, but also 2, they add additional pieces in. So let's talk about what it is. And they talk about this. I don't want to rehash and talk about everything they say word for word. There's some people who do that. I think that's a little bit much for me personally. If you want to, though, like I said, the big thing is this is a fleet battles game. In general, for what they've shown so far, they say it's 1 to 3 ships per person, or per side, I should say. You could play a giant game where, like, say, 4 people v 4 people, everyone has a ship. I do want to see how the game plays. I was right. They say it's 60 minutes up here. I'm curious if I can make 5 or 6 ships per person. What's the time limit like that? And that's kind of where my interest lies in trying to see what we can do at those sort of levels. So I'm curious to see how it plays at that. They said it's a Fleet Battles game. They give you a video all about the intro to it, what it's really about. They talk a little bit about, they show, okay, you have these large ships. You have, them trying to fight off versus each other. We'll talk about sort of their unique things to this game in a moment. That's sort of where you plan your actions and then your movement, because this is a vectored movement game. So what vectored movement games mean? If you think about space, if you move in space in a particular direction and then nothing tries to stop you, you don't stop. At least for all intents and purposes, we'll assume you're not getting close to any other planets or anything weird like that. If you're in the pure dead of space and you have a propulsion system in one direction, boom, you keep going that direction. What that also means is if you suddenly were to hit your propulsion in another direction, so you're going forward and you suddenly put your propulsion off to the side, you will start going up and over. You'll start moving that. What won't happen is your ship will not physically turn, because you haven't actually engaged some sort of thrusting system, usually on opposite sides, to cause it to turn. So we call this vectored movement because you have a vector of a direction that you're going, that the ship, I should say, is going, and that's the direction it keeps going until you enact another force upon it. They talk, of course, about, the miniatures look good, and I will admit, for what they've showed, they absolutely do look good, but no place is going to tell you they have bad miniatures. They said they talk a bit about how it's an Infinity universe, which is great. They go through a bit of the rewards. I, of course, went for the big one because it includes a whole bunch of extra ships, and that's what I want. So they do have some add-ons, nice things. Obviously, they're also giving you some more ships. This actually just came up the other day. One thing they haven't done yet that I'm waiting to see is they haven't shown us yet what all of the unlocks are going to be. They kind of talked like they would. My hope is maybe by the time this comes out, we know all the path going forward. We know some of it now, but I kind of want to see the rest. And part of that path, which we're very close for a few things, but one of the parts of the path is more ships. So if it goes in all pledges, the core box had an okay amount of ships in it, but as these things unlock, let's face it, they knew they were going to add more ships in, and they were just hiding it to us for a little while. Nice part is it's going to be on Tabletop Simulator, which means you can try it out there. So you can absolutely try it out. Me personally, I do prefer the physical copies. I want these things in my hand. I want to move them around. I don't want to listen to Dan make a bunch of pew pew noises, but hey, that's my life. But I do prefer have it physically in my hand. Will I play it on tabletop? Absolutely, I will. So they show us all of that. They, of course, show us all of the upgrades, the extra ships, all the bonuses that they're giving you. Importantly, if we take a look at the core box has 4 ships. It gives you all the components you need, like they show you. You have the Pano multi-purpose cruiser. You have the Hakaslam destroyer. You have a combined heavy cruiser, and this one down here is a Morat assault frigate, which is essentially a giant gun, also with a blade on the front. You get into the last wave, which follows more of the combined forces. We can see them listed here. If you're curious about any of the symbols, you can look these up on the Infinity piece. They're all part of combined. I don't remember every single symbol, I will be honest, and I don't want to say it and get it wrong because that would anger people more. Then you obviously have more of the... Oh, my apologies. I think I said this was Hakaslam. That's Yuzhing. My apologies. That's Yuzhing. This one is Hakaslam. So we have the different ones. Ariana 012, which is the faction I play. Nomads. Notice I know a lot more of the Human Sphere because I play Human Sphere. So they show us that each of these other boxes, for about 50, you're getting 4 more ships in each. You're already getting more ships in the base box. And they talk about how to play the game. Very briefly, I want to go over this idea just so you know overall. They give you videos you can watch all that. I'll talk about the good and the bad of those in a second. Overall, the way the game is played, you have 3 phases, just as they say. You have strategic phase, where you figure out the initiatives. It's based off of cards, and it can change. You have captain cards, so your captains have abilities. You play any of those. Tactical phase, you figure out how much energy do you have, and then you place it spots. And that is a hidden part. So I'll know how much energy you have to work with. I just won't know where you're going to place it. And then combat, then you fight. When that's done, boom, you go all over again. To kind of go through that a little bit more. So, for little bits about this, when you are in your phase for planning, we'll see here's your ship. The bottom shows the energy. And again, they show all this in the video. The bottom down here is your energy. It shows you how much essentially you can kind of store up. It shows you the way in which you could push them. So you can put 3 to one side, 3 to the other, and all of that. And you see spots it can go. So over here in this yellow region is movement for the ship. Energy in the back helps you move forward. Energy in the side pushes you towards the sides. You want to rotate, that's what these are up here. Want to slow down or go in the other direction, you have this up here. We'll talk about how to know your speeds and all that in a moment. You have crew. You can determine where your crew go, and you get different bonuses and things like that related to your crew. You might have weapons that have to be crewed. I think that's this one here. So we have all these pieces. You have over here where you can put things into, say, your weapons. That's what you have here. And here's where you actually take damage on your ship when you start getting injured. It shows you essentially how much sort of health you have when you get inside, when you start taking more of internal damage, your criticals, we see all listed here. It is a D12 system. It is an at or under system. So when you roll at or below, you are successful. So rolling above is bad. So they give us this. So you're planning the things that you're doing, hidden. You have this nice little board where different ships are obviously going to have different looking boards. I do like that. I'm a fan of Star Wars Armada, which has the same sort of feel in the fact that every ship is a little bit different and what it can do and the way it puts things together all changes. For movement, because that's a key thing that I want to mention as well. When we take a look at our movement, there we go. So when we take a look at the movement, now, what I will say, I'm excited about the game, but I do think they had some problems when they explained it. I don't think they explained this very well, or maybe they did, but sometimes when you are working on a project, it can be tough for you to explain it to others, and I found this a little bit muddled, but I think it's easier than they said. The middle shows your orientation, because it can help, because you could actually be in the other direction, but the big thing is, the level you're at shows you, in essence, how fast you can move. So a ship might say, in level 1, we move 2 inches, 4 inches, then maybe at the end you move 6, 7, or 8 inches, however far it may be. And if you push more forward, you knock up to the next spot, knock up to the next spot. Notice, if you want to go towards the side, because you're showing the angle you're pointing at, anywhere in here, in this sort of U shape, is moving forward. Anywhere here is moving towards the right, towards the left, back. Here's where you're moving at an angle, say 45-degree angle. If your point is here right now, and you want to start going 45 degrees to your right side, notice you would need to move the piece twice to get into that distance. If you further want to keep going, you're going to have to move even more. So what this means is the reason why there was all those boxes here. If you really want to start going in a certain direction, you might have to put, if you want to go that way, you'd have to do this one. You might have to put 3 pieces down to stand a chance at moving from here to pop your way over. So that's what we mean by vectored movement. You can't just put to the side and suddenly go to the side. It's essentially the combination of those vectors. So the movement, I think, is a really neat addition, the way they've done this. I like vectored movement games. We're currently kind of lacking one, at least to me. If you know one, put it down in the comments below. I'm very interested in taking a look. But we're really lacking one. Star Wars Armada has it, although, okay, it's not a dead game, but it's not really supported right now. Battlefleet Gothic had it, or at least to an extent. It's not around right now. Firestorm Armada, that's been gone for a while now, unfortunately. We do have some, if you look into the more fantasy element. If you look at Mantic Games, Armada, their ship-based game, that has it to an extent. There's some other ones as well that have it to an extent, but not quite space, which is what I love. I prefer space, and not quite like this. Like I said, we mentioned a bit about the phases. They show a little bit about the board with the ships, all of that in action, which is great. And they show us as at least one of the weapon pieces. Let me pull that down a little bit. And they show us, okay, well, hey, here's weapon. So, you know, what you have for it, the way it fires off the side, how many dice you get, and all of that. So it tells you all of these sort of bits of information. Again, you can watch their video if you want to go through it more. What's neat about this is when you're firing a weapon, you fire it off, the next round it's still there, then it goes away, so you don't have to hit someone on the first turn. And yes, most of them can move and pivot, you know, so hey, it gets 2 moves. We know how far it goes and things like that. So that's an overall related to the game. You can watch their videos and pieces to learn a lot more about it. Like I said, they do a pretty good job. I think they're a little muddled at points, but they do explain it. And also, the videos are in Spanish. They are subbed, but you do have to kind of watch and look back and forth to it. So it's a little bit more difficult that way, but it's okay. So they show a bit about their miniatures, of course, which is great. They show a size comparison in case you know. What I want to go now then, because I do want to keep this pretty short. We talked a little bit about the game itself. We talked a little bit about like what it kind of looks like. We talked a little bit about, the way the pieces look, all that kind of thing. I said, if you want to know more particular details, you can watch all their stuff. I want to talk briefly about why I'm actually excited about this game. One, I love fleet battle games. Both Dan and I actually were vanguards for Spartan Games when that existed. We both had, I think between the two of us, 6 or so fleets. Yeah, probably about 6 or so fleets for Firestorm Armada. It was huge in our store. We got tons of people to play it. We were playing lots of it. We absolutely loved it. It was great. That, of course, went away. Maybe one time we'll talk about the pitfalls and follies of that company as well. I really love Star Wars Armada, but for at least a super long time, it was hard to get games of it because they don't really do much with it anymore. There's not new ships coming out. There's some new captains at times. There's some new cards and things like that. But otherwise, it's just kind of as is. And I want a game that's growing. I do like the Mantic Armada game. I do think it's fun, but I want something in space. And this scratches that itch. This scratches the sort of simulation style game. That's exactly what this is. This is a simulation type game. And that's something that I personally have been lacking. I haven't seen a lot of. Maybe if Battlefleet Gothic ever comes back, maybe if Star Wars Armada gets picked back up again in a large way, maybe Firestorm Armada, the new edition, ever actually comes out, which currently doesn't look like it. They've been delayed it, and it's been in beta for like 3 years. And it's not a good beta either. So it fits a niche that I think is currently lacking. It's in a universe that I think is really great. If you want good lore, go through Infinity. The lore in Infinity, the faction breakdowns, all that sort of stuff, the world around it, there's a lot of lore out there, and it's actually very, very good. I think other things I like about this, I do like getting in on the ground floor for certain properties. It's a type of game I like in a world I like that's just about to start up. Again, there's about another year before it comes out, which is good. But one, I do want to support people who are doing projects I like. And this is a company that does have other Kickstarters. They've been successful. So I'm not worried about it like I was for some other pieces. There's some other things I've backed, and we'll talk about those as well in the future time. And that's why I did. I know at least in my area, there's a lot of us who are. And I do think if you're the person who likes fleet type games, that this is absolutely something you should take a look at. Like I said, at the time of this posting, about 7 days, you'll probably be able to back afterwards, would be my assumption. As well, I don't truly know, but if you're interested in doing that, this is absolutely a way that you can do that. The other thing I will say, and this is absolutely, selfish of me, but if more people back, we unlock more stretch goals. Let's face it, I want this game to be supported, and I think it will be. I want to see more for it now because I'm absolutely the kind of person who gets bored of things quickly if we don't have a lot of variety. I want variety. I want choices. They've already added quite a few ships. I'm going to be adding that extra, I forget what they said, cruiser, whatever it is, as well to my pledge. The Aleph Neo Cruiser. Yeah, it's an Aleph ship. I'm going to be adding that absolutely to my pledge as well. So I'm really excited about those things. For things that I'm a little, always concerned about, obviously, when you throw money at something, you don't 100% know what's going to happen. We'll have to see. I'm curious how big this game actually hits. I know at least in my area it'll be played, but if you're kind of like by yourself, it might be a little bit harder. Although, if you kind of get that sort of all-in pledge, you have enough for tons of people to play. They are, I'm sure, working with stores and all of that. So, a store could work for this or get some things. And I'm just curious, later, what else are we going to see? So, is there a large plan of ships? What I'd like to hear more about is what's the later, say, year 1, year 2 sort of plan for this? Oh, we're looking at, a couple boxes a year, or are we looking at, 1 or 2 ships every month? Me personally, I'd like to know that so I kind of know what I'm getting into. I still want to get into it either way, but this way I have an idea of the sort of money I'm going to be spending. All right, I can see my video is paused, at least screen-wise, for me a few times. Apparently, I've been running too many things on this, not quite a potato, but becoming more a potato everyday computer. And now we've been going for 20 minutes. I don't want to make this any longer than that. So, if you're looking for a good Fleet Battles game, I think this is something worth looking at. If you happen to know another Battles game, or any sort of miniatures game out there like that fits these sort of niches, post in the comments below. If you did back, or if you plan on backing, please do let us know as well. I'm really curious to see where people are picking this up, if people know about this, if it's the first you heard about it, or if you're steering clear of it. I'd love to know why as well. If you want to hear about more either Kickstarters, game founds, any of that are coming out, have come out, anything like that, let me know about that. Always willing to do whatever sort of content that the community likes and things that I like doing. At the end of the day, I talk for a living. I like talking. All right, that's enough for me then. On behalf of everyone here at the show, have a good hobbying and some great gaming.